Right guys, so in the previous video I forgot to talk about lambda and higher order function. So let's do this in this video. I have written something here. So lambdas are basically self-contained blocks of code. What I mean by, you can give a gives give a some block, we call this a block inside curly braces, and write any instructions here. This will be a lambda, like printing hello world and doing any mathematics like 2 into 3. So we call this a lambda, a nameless function, and it is used in as higher order functions in function. So we can write instruction in a block of code and assign it to a variable like this, anything like hello. Now we can call this variable like a function. If we call it like a function with curly braces, and if I run it, this block of codes will be executed. So yeah, hello world is here. So that was it basically, and we can also specify parameters here like we do in functions. We can also do something like here. Suppose we want to find, but before that let me tell you something. If I write something here like a string like okay, I am Luffy, I did this, so this will be returned. We saw return function here. We return something from a function, so this string will be returned from this lambda. This string, whatever data type is written at the last line of this lambda, that data type is returned. So now if I store it somewhere like name equals, and we call it like this, and now if I print name, first this instruction will be executed, then this return string will be stored in this variable here. So first it's executed this instruction, then it stored this string in the variable name, and when we printed name, it gave us that string. If we hover it here, so it inferred the type as string. You see here, it inferred the type as string. Now if we typed something, a number like this, if we see here now, it inferred the type as int. So whatever returned here, it will be stored here. If I print name, then this number will be printed here. Now we can also give parameters here. Suppose we want to multiply two numbers, val mult, and we specify lambda like this block of code, and like we did on function, we can also do something like this. Suppose num1 is of type int and num2 is also of type int, followed by an arrow like this, an arrow. Now if I do num1 into num2, it will give us the multiplication of these numbers. In the last example, we saw whatever returned here, it returned that. So now if I store it in yeah, you can also see here, it accepts two parameters and return us int, whatever we specified here. Suppose we give some string, its type will be it returns what? It returns string. So this is basically a higher order function. So now result equals mult if as num1 as 2 and num2 as 3, and we print result, we will get 6, 6. Here you can see 6 is here. So whatever written last here, its return type will be of that type. So if I print here number 1 or first number is num1 and second number is num2. Here first it executed line by line, this line. First number is 2 and second number is 3. Then whatever returned here, it was printed here. Because why? We stored, if we hover over here, see, invert type is of int. So whatever returned here, we store it here, and I just printed it. So this was all about Lambda. Next we will see how we define higher order function using Lambda. Okay, now let's see what is a higher order function. So a function that is capable of receiving a function or a lambda as an argument. So we can give a function or a lambda as a function as an argument of another function, or we can returning one as a result, or we can return a function or a lambda from a function. So that is called or referred to as higher order function. So first we will see how we receive as an argument. So suppose we want to write a function which does mathematical operations and we don't know what will be the operation. So function, we can do operation, or do operation, and suppose it takes two numbers, num1 which is of type int and num2 which also is of type int, and it returns an integer. After doing the operation, it returns an integer, right? But we don't know what operations to do. So what operations to do, we will pass when we call this function. We will not define like multiply, summation, addition, or any division. We will specify that when we call this function, and to do that we need a higher order function, or we need to take a lambda as an argument here. So suppose we can say operation, and since this is a lambda or a function, we give these round brackets, and on which numbers we will do the operation? On these two numbers. And which type? Int type, integer type. So we will specify the types here, int and int, and it returns what? If we don't return anything, we can give unit. Unit is like void in Java. We can do something like, right, void and function name here. In Java we do this. So this void is unit here. But we will return an integer after doing any operation, any mathematical operation. We will return the result. So the data type will be, of course, of type int, and we can just return operation here on which, and it needs two parameters or arguments, and these will be these two, num1 and num2, num1 and num2. So since this returns int, that's why we can return we can return like this, because why? This is also type int and this is also type int. Suppose this was of type string, we can, then we could not do this, it will give mismatch. So now suppose we want to do summation, we'll do what? We'll call do operation function and num1 as suppose 3 and num2 as suppose 5, and operation we give, and like we define a lambda, we give the curly braces, and it needs two integer parameters. We specify it like this. You can give anything here, x, y, and followed by an arrow. It is giving error. It needs to return integer. See here. Yeah, return type is integer, but we are returning unit here, like void. So we'll do what? We'll just do x plus y. Error is gone, and we will get 3 plus 5. And if we store it on a variable like this and print the variable, we will see the result here, 3 plus 5, 8. So suppose we don't, and then we want to do multiplication, we can simply store it in a variable like multiplication and do operation. Num1 will be suppose again 3 and num2 will be suppose 5, and if the lambda is taken as argument, as the last argument, we call it a trailing lambda. It is in the tail of this function. Remember like that. We can call it a trailing lambda, and we can give curly braces like this, because why? This lambda is in the last argument, so we can give a trailing lambda. And same thing like this, we will just copy it and paste it here. And since we need multiplication, now we will just give multiply. Alright, so if we didn't use this higher order function, we would have to write separate functions for addition, multiplication, and now since we are doing the operation inside this lambda, so only this single function is being used. So now if I print the multiplication, then we can see that it is giving us correct answer. So it was the higher order function, the lambda, passed as argument inside the function. We can also return a lambda function. So just let me show you quickly. Okay, now let's see how we can return a lambda. Suppose we make a function that gives us a number's power, like 2 cube or 4 square or 5 to the power 4, something like that. Let's see. Function can say power, and since we need to give double, since this power function extension is an extension function of our double, so we'll have to give it a type of double. Number is of type double, and now we specify what the lambda accepts, int, and what the lambda will return. It will return a double. So now this whole function will return double. So now we can just say return and give the lambda block here. As you can see, it is there you can see it of type int. This it is this parameter. Whatever we give here, it will pass on to it, this one, it. So now if I do number dot pow, you can see there are two overloads of pow. Okay, so one accepts int and the another accepts double. We'll do this int one. So we just give it here, and so that's it. It will return double. As you can see, it will return double. So now if I come here and let's suppose fell power equals power, what it needs a number. So let's give it a number, suppose 2.0, and now we want to do 2 cube. Then this thing we'll have to give this here. If I do fell square, we need the square, right? So equals this power, this lambda accepts an integer, an int. So we'll just do, suppose 2 cube, we'll have to do 2 cube, we give this one. Now if I print the square, sorry, let's say it's cube. Now if we run it, we can see 2 cube, which is 8.0. Okay, so now instead of writing it in 2 lines, we can also do something like this: fell cube equals power 2.0 and the power, which will be 3. So it means 2 cube. And if I print it, and this also works. So now instead of giving it here, we can give any name to this variable, suppose x. Now it became x, so we'll have to give x here. So what is x now? whatever value will be passed here, which is this one, this 3, will be this x, and this argument, this parameter, and this is this, and this whole function returning a double. So that's how we can return a function, and also you can take argument as a lambda. So if you play around with it, so only then you can understand it fully. So play around with it. That's it for this video. Next video we will learn about OOP finally.